Good morning, everyone,
Morning.
and welcome to our webinar. Again, this is Courtney, the Marketing Coordinator here at AIM. Today's webinar will be recorded and later posted on our website, which does mean that all attendees will be automatically muted so that we can get a quality recording. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. We'll try to address them all during the webinar. However, if we run out of time, we'll have a member of our team give you a call later to follow up with you. If you haven't already heard, we just unveiled a new agent resource here at AIM, the 2-Minute Minute. The marketing team will be bringing you quick hit ways to talk to more prospects, write more business, and grow your agency. We know that most of our agents do a little bit of everything, and we'll make sure that our vlog has something for everyone. And we'll get you just what you need in 2 minutes. Check out our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube pages for a new episode dropping right after this webinar. If you need any help accessing the videos, go ahead and give us a call at 800-672-7202. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike and Dawn, and so they can get started. Go ahead and take it away, Mike.
Morning, everybody. Mike Anderson here, joined by my colleague Don Erickson. Don, say good morning to everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
A little grainy over there. Must be the silo that Don's in this morning. Must be one that's got interference going on. And he's going to try to dial right back in. So anyway, we appreciate everybody joining us here today for our webinar about Worksite long-term care, the solutions that we've got available and things that you can do to take advantage of it. The important thing to remember about Worksite is that it is the answer to your request, if you will, for the ability to sell more long-term care. It's the way to get in front of multiple people at one time. Employer endorsements and things like that we've learned over the years are really, really important, and they work, is all you can say. So as we talk over the next few minutes, we're going to talk about some of the changes in Worksite, what's new, what's changed, how you can help what's going on by working with both large and small groups, why even small discounting that's available makes more of a difference than what you might think, and where Worksite is going to go in the near future. We'll talk about some details, a little bit about state legislatures, state payroll taxes, things like that coming up, and being prepared for that, because there's some very quirky structure to what it is that they are putting in place. And an important note right now, before we go any further, okay? There seems to be a behavior out there, if you want to call it that. People are sitting and waiting to see what's going to happen in Washington. And the answer to what's going to happen in Washington is nothing. All right? There is nothing that's going to change the tax or repeal the tax. They're going to begin starting to collect the money later here at the beginning of the summer. Okay? So if you're sitting back waiting to see if Washington repeals, it's not going to happen. The Democrats control the legislature. The Speaker of the House, who's a Democrat, is the one that introduced the bill that led to this 4 years ago. So there is no appetite, no substantive appetite for repeal. Okay, so if you're sitting back and waiting for something to happen there, set that aside if you want to get moving, and the time would be now to be able to get moving. You're going to want to do that. So that's just a quick Washington note. We'll look at some other things here in a minute. So Worksite Advantage. If you want to advance your long-term care business, consider this simple math equation. Would you rather get or have access to a group of 25 people on an employer-endorsed piece, or have the same kitchen table conversations that you've been having with the proverbial Bob and Carol Davises of the world as you go along? Worksite's the most efficient way to do this. We had huge Worksite numbers in Washington 2 years ago, and there continues to be a ton of interest and awareness of what long-term care is about and why it's a necessary piece. Okay, Worksite, it's advantageous to both the employer and the employee, and we'll tell you about that in a little bit. You can work with all group sizes down to 5. Okay, you can even go up over 1,000 if you land one like that. We have the ability to do that. We'll take a look at details of both group, the large group and the small group information here in just a second. All right. So moving along. Still working to protect the dream. If you've been the American dream, if you've been on my calls before, you've heard us talk about this, and we're going to continue to talk about it. But the difference is now the employers got the opportunity to go along for the ride, and they got the opportunity to reduce their tax burden and protect the company's investments in individual long-term care, individual people and their long-term care by stepping in. And so when in a day and age where retaining employees is more difficult than ever, why not give an employer that you know the opportunity to step in, pay for long-term care for an employee, which will reduce their federal tax burden. It puts them in a position where they're paying Uncle Sam less money than they would be paying otherwise. All right, so zip over here to this again. Question becomes, when you're talking about employer groups, the guy or gal or people that run that company, would they rather pay Uncle Sam or would they rather reward their employees? This is an entry point to an employer and this conversation. Okay, real simple. Do you want to talk with me about a way to reduce what you pay in taxes? Okay, there's an easy answer there, and I don't know anybody that relishes the idea of paying more taxes. So this gets you the opportunity to get in the door on this. Okay, when you're working with these worksite plans, you're able to do a couple different things. One is make sure the employees have long-term care benefits, which make a difference, and that it protects their retirement investments. Okay, you also give the employers that tax deduction that we talked about before. It's a win-win for everybody. And just remember, you as the agent don't need to be a tax expert. These business owners have people that do their taxes. In all likelihood, they've got their own tax expert. Okay, they've got a department who deals with this, and they've got somebody that they sit down with every year. All they've got to do is ask that individual about the impact long-term care would have on what they're doing, and they're going to go forward with that without much of a problem. So Washington, what did we learn from Washington? Who's next the long run? So now I sort of covered the end of the story first with Washington. Okay, the question is what's next? And what we know about who's next is that California, Pennsylvania, and New York all have legislation in play or setting up to be in play. And Washington taught us along the way that you've got to be prepared to move very, very quickly in a worst case scenario, and there's almost no be back appointments. Okay, so everybody was surprised by a couple of different things, one of which was that employers were willing to spend money to keep this payroll tax out of their payroll operation. Okay, and that the taxpayers were angry at the prospect of a potential tax, and they were willing to spend more money actually on long-term care than they would have spent on that tax. And so we know what is next. There's some quirky things going on in New York and Pennsylvania right now. We can deal with that in offline follow-up conversations with this. California is the one that looks to be the big hit. They have multiple different proposals that they're working with, and it's the kind of thing that's going to give you a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. We had agents whose principal business was nothing like long-term care, who wrote a ton of long-term care in Washington because people found them on the internet or in the phone book and called them and asked them for help. It's no more complicated than that. So just keep in mind that it's going to be an evolving situation. I'm going to flip it over to Don now. I'm going to talk about the sort of the detailed pieces with long-term care and take us through that piece right there.
All right, thanks, Mike. Yeah, like Mike said, there's a lot of stuff that has been gone on with the tax trust in Washington and group business altogether. So, as you can see on here, we're going to take a bite out of it. Worksite plans can be used and incentivize behavior on both sides. Employers get one short window to reduce underwriting options. Employers get tax deductions. As you build the plans, you will find people who aren't as concerned with inflation being included. Don't be concerned, because one of the biggest things what we learned in Washington is that there will be be-back appointments. The enhanced awareness of long-term care and why it matters will set the stage for the second chance appointments. And it may also set the stage for upsells at delivery time. So now we're going to cover the basics of the worksite, and we're going to move forward with that. So LifeSecure, the true benefit of LifeSecure, we're going to go over pure worksite options, and the only one that is actually simplified issue. Only 7 questions, simplified issue, versus the true underwriting you have with other group plans and traditional long-term care. Simplified issue for employees that will last a 30-day enrollment period. You will not find a better opportunity for spouses receiving simplified issue and unisex rates. That's a huge thing. I mean, when you're talking about underwriting, if you can get anything to minimize that, it's a huge deal. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where people just get DQ'd for little things, but we want to make sure they have the best benefits. So spouses will get the best of both worlds, and unisex rates can help save around 30% compared to trying to insure female spouses through another plan. Group census is the main part to be eligible for the groups to qualify. They must have a minimum with LifeSecure of 50-50 male-female ratio, if not a little heavier on the male side. That's one main thing to qualify for the LifeSecure plan. Also, a minimum of the employees must have a salary of $40,000 or more. Now, those are 2 of the biggest things. When working with groups under 100 employees, the employer will contribute $25 per employee. When you're working with groups over 100 employees, which we've seen them both ways, both sides, and it's just when it's 100 employees or more, it's all voluntary. But in saying that, with voluntary, we've seen employers actually pay even a part of it or even the whole thing. It just helps them both with the taxes and the deductions and the employees. So moving on to some of the product offerings for the LifeSecure product. Here, as you see the details, the issue ages 18 to 69, so a great benefit for younger employees that have actually been with employers. Coverage types, minimum requirements for the group sizes, it's just a highlight of it. They must have at least 10 submitted applications, no matter the group size. That's what it'll take to activate the group. Additional spouses discount, of course. We have the electronic printed copies available, so you can have those, but they are, available if you need the paper copies. But to send those, you also have to make sure you're completely appointed. Moving on to the plan at a glance, the options. So this kind of shows you the 4 banks that they do have. All the plans each have, the employers can choose these. There's the 50,000, 100, 200, or 300,000. It's a unique feature with LifeSecure with their worksite plans. All applications are fully done by the employee and their spouse on the portal. So actually, you don't have anything farther to do once the employer's been set up with their HR and everything. They actually go out. The employee does all the applications on their own. We're going to actually go through some other things right now with Mike with the modified plans that we offer through the other carriers. Take it away, Mike.
Okay. Important to note, just as a quick aside, we don't really talk about this very much, but LifeSecure's process is all electronic, and it literally could not be any easier than what it is. You can guide the clients right out to it. You don't have to actively be involved in that transitional part. Like Don said, just 7 real brief questions, 3 of which pertain to the fact that they're not on claim, they're not ADL deficient, they haven't been advised to move into a claims environment, any of those kinds of things. So you really can't get much in the way of simpler underwriting. But we do know that there are cases where we have smaller numbers than what LifeSecure is willing to work with. And in those cases, we've got this modified plan with what we call an employer endorsement, as opposed to going through the worksite qualifications. The advantage to this modified plan is you've only got to have 5 employee apps to what the carriers call validating the plan. And the thing that we've learned over time immemorial is that people really like the idea of being able to say that they were saving 5% on their long-term care. And the employer endorsed plans that we've gotten, and two of the carriers offer those, they make it possible for that to be the case. And that's why we got the note here about 5 being the magic number. Mutual's got one of the plans, they call it the common employer discount, and minimal requirements. The only one being, because it's available to employees and spouses, the key thing is you got to have 5 employee apps in the door to validate the program for Amalgamated Widget. Once you do that, anybody that works at Amalgamated Widget or comes to work at Amalgamated Widget is eligible for the program. They'll have to be underwritten, but everybody gets underwritten. But there isn't a time frame that constricts you where you have to try to cram everything into a 30-day period of time, okay, or a longer period of time. All right, and those apps, those employee apps, we'll dive more into this in a little bit, but the employee apps have to be submitted together for this plan to work, okay? So we'll look at some of the specifics here. I know you guys can read, so I'm not a slide reader, all right? There is a form that you submit at the beginning of the process after you have your 5 apps, okay? You submit that form. It tells them that Amalgamated Widget is requesting this common employer discount, and here are the 5 employees from Amalgamated who are coming in to take care of the validation piece, all right? So it's actually a cover sheet. Most of you are working with electronic apps now. If you've got one that you think you're going to do this with, please be in touch with us, because we can walk you through the mechanics of what you need to do with this and how to manage those apps in the portal to where they all come in together and they have that form attached, which is key to making that work, all right? You can't start with 3 and add 2 later. They all have to come in together initially to validate, all right? And our case manager, Kaylin, keeps super close track of everything that's going on there. You can get in contact with her. You can get in contact with Dawn or I about this to make sure that we're taking you through this process. It really couldn't be any simpler, and it's very easy to upload that common employer form off your desktop into the portal and have it go in with one of the 5 apps. It's important to note that they will go through the full underwriting process, but again, they really don't know much different about that, and the thing that they are really interested in, the thing that they are really tuned into is this idea of the 5% discount, okay? Now, National Guardian Life, another one of our individual product partners, they have a similar plan, okay? It's a little bit of a different 5 as noted here with this particular situation, and it's also a situation where issued business makes a difference for them, okay? All right, they can help you do this as well if you've got somebody, or if you feel heavily that you want to go with NGL more than Mutual, okay, the 5% discount does apply, but you got to get issued policies to make this work. All right, so here's the detail piece on NGL.
And Mike, it does say there's a guide attached, but we actually we have it available. It's just not on the slide yet.
Sure, and we can make it available for you if you're appointed with NGL or you're in the process of getting appointed with NGL. We can get that out to you, okay? And they make it look a little bit more complicated than it really is. Simple truth of the matter is, you just have to get yourself set up to get into, depending on the state, anywhere from 2 to 5 employees, but they have to get issued. That's the difference. And we can get you that, like I said, that guide which kind of takes you through these things. But the biggest piece is just having people that want to talk to you about long-term care. If you've got that and you feel like NGL is the right play for them, you've got this opportunity, okay? And that's the biggest thing is we're trying to position folks to be able to have opportunities that are more going to give them more at bats, to use a baseball analogy, since we're now in spring training. And by automatically getting in front of 5 folks and having that employer endorsement, that does up your hit numbers quite a bit. Okay. Just making sure my notes are correct here. Yeah, some of the states do have variations where they require a different number of apps. So we can give you, if you've got a case, not a hypothetical, but an actual case in, Georgia or whatever, with their version of amalgamated widget, we could take you through the details there. But asking a bunch of hypothetical questions, that doesn't really get us much of anywhere. All right, I'm going to turn it over here to Don, and we're going to kind of close things up here with some of the specifics on contracting and things like that, and mostly just a call to action to get moving now and not wait, because when it starts in a California or in a Pennsylvania or New York, it's going to go really, really fast right out of the gate. So Don, go ahead and take her away and close us up.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and just emphasizing on what Mike said, each of the carriers are a little different on how they work with their worksite plans. We always want to make sure that you know how they work. If you have questions, we'll be there for it. NGL is kind of special in some of the states, and we can get you that state variation sheet. Some states only take 2 or 3, I think maybe 3 apps at minimum or to get it started, but they have to be issued to actually get it approved. So there are a few states that work with that. I saw that in one of the state variations. In saying that, it's not just shutdowns that we worry about. It's slowdowns are just as bad. When we went through that Washington, this whole trust thing, just trying to get people appointed. So many people were trying to get appointed to write apps right away. It slowed everything down. So it's not just, worrying about helping people out and getting in before exemptions and all this stuff. It's longer wait times on the contracting. So if you have any interest in getting set up for the worksite plans or any of our other plans, make sure you do it sooner than later, because it does take a little time for the contracting. I know our contracting department here at the office does a great job. I mean, they rock and roll, but it does get busy, and we know how it slows down. So let's make sure with the requirements for the training, if you need CE or if it's any kind of training, make sure you have them in place. That's E&O, all of that stuff. But when state-run legislation start, worksite is just one more important pieces of the puzzle. So we don't want to forget about the other products, the traditional LTCs, the hybrids, products to fit your client's needs. We have here at AIM, this is worksite and long-term care and other plans, but we have a 6-pack of features. We have Mutual of Omaha, National Guardian Life, Thrivent, Life Secure, One America, Gillico, Securian, all the worksite plans we just went over. We have all of those under one house. So we have quite a bit of things to help you, our traditional plans and our hybrid products with whole life, long-term care and annuity with the hybrids. So don't wait. If you do, you could get caught up in the mad dash, as they say it, with newbies trying to get into the game. So, but in saying all that, Mike, I appreciate everybody's time today. If there's anything else you want to do, I just want to thank everybody for being with us today. Have a great day. Anything else you want to say, Mike?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, the information about what's going on in the New York legislature and the Pennsylvania legislature and what's going on in California, that's all available and it's out on the internet. I'd encourage you, if you are fishing in those ponds, to get out there and find the most current information and have it available and get it in front of the clients and get them to understand the need to move now. Okay, there's some really quirky stuff going on with New York and Pennsylvania that you're going to want to understand, and you want to be able to convey to the clients the reason that they want to move now, because legislatively it doesn't look like they're moving, but that can change very, very quickly, and just not making it appear as though and making it obvious to them that there is something going on and it's not just you trying to chase them into doing something. Being able to show them that it's there and that the states are trying to figure this out enables them to be in a position to figure it out for themselves. And like Don said, enables them to be in a position and with you to beat that rush. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions like we always do at the end. Remember, our marketers will be following up with everybody on the call later today, but in the meantime, we will open up an opportunity for questions. If you don't anticipate asking a question, if you wouldn't mind individually muting yourself so that we don't have dogs barking and the Amazon guy showing up and all those kinds of things. And it looks like pretty much everybody is self-muted. So we'll wait a minute or so here to see if anybody has questions with this. We will be following up as noted with you to cover details and specific questions that you might have, position you from a contracting standpoint to knock that particular piece out of the way.
Hey, Mike, can you tell us the actual 7 underwriting questions for the Worksite plan?
Sure. Give me a second. I have to switch over to a different. There we go. All right. Give me a second to find that here. I do have access to it. All right. The questions are, and as noted before, the first 3 have to do with being on claim or being ADL dependent. Last 12 months, have you resided in or been advised by a healthcare professional to be in a nursing home, assisted living facility, continuing care, retirement community? In other words, to enter into an on-claim situation. 1. 2, are you using assistive devices, crutches, catheter, oxygen equipment, stair lift, dialysis, anything like that? Question number 3, have you required human assistance or, they use the term hands-on or standby assistance with the ADLs, bathing, dressing, eating, getting in or out of the tub or a chair, walking, using the toilet, managing bowel and bladder function. Okay, so those are the first 3 out of 7. When you get it, now you get into the medical piece. The first one is what I would consider to be that standard knockout, asking about neurological and cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's disease, dementia, Down syndrome, ALS, Huntington's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, that type of thing. It asks about immune disorders like AIDS and AIDS-related complex. Asks about GI issues, chronic kidney or renal disease, chronic liver issues, bowel and bladder incontinence. It asks about mental disorders, psychosis, schizophrenia. Also asks about neuromuscular and amputation that is not accidental. In other words, due to a disease. It asks about some of the more quirky things like ankylosing spondylitis, Addison's, systemic lupus, and transverse myelitis, cardiovascular and endocrine questions, diabetes with insulin, juvenile onset diabetes, stroke, or TIA. Asks about cancer in the last 12 months, cancer that's metastatic. Asks whether they are currently receiving, and then the last 2 sort of close this up. So there's really only, when you get down to it, there's really only 3 pure medical questions. Everything else has to do with care and such. It asks whether the applicant is receiving or has a pending application for DI, SSDI, workers' comp, Medicaid, not Medicare, but Medicaid, and veterans compensation of more than 30%. Okay, and in the last 3 years, have they applied for long-term care insurance and been declined, postponed, or offered reduced benefits? So that's the 7 questions that you've got. It's important to note, I mean, you just got to get your head around this. If you're going to work with a group of any size, you are going to run into somebody that's going to run afoul of this. And Murphy's Law of Insurance tells us that the individual that runs afoul of this is going to be somebody with a big voice within Amalgamated Widget, or they're married to somebody who has a big voice within Amalgamated Widget. It's just the nature of the beast. Okay, we can't do anything about that. So managing it from the front side is important. In most cases, the folks in HR have some idea, when you have these kinds of things going on, but just making sure they understand it's not guaranteed issue. In all likelihood, you're going to get somebody that's going to run afoul of it. It's also important for them to understand that the enrollment period for the LifeSecure product, which is our true Worksite product, it's a limited period, typically 30 days, okay? And they have the opportunity to seed the clouds multiple times. We're working on a case right now with one of our groups, and they've really got a great mindset as far as they call it beating the bushes, that kind of stuff, and really putting a lot of time and energy into making sure people understand that this opportunity is going to be made available, and it's going to be made available on a limited basis, okay? And when you start this conversation, making sure that the HR and the benefit folks understand this and getting an idea of what their plan is before you get too far in. That's really important, because if HR and the benefits people don't plan to send out emails and put up flyers around the building and such, if they're just basically going to tell everybody that they see at lunch one day, hey, we got long-term care now, it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get your minimums. It's going to be really, really difficult. So you need to make sure they've got a thorough, and you can help them with that, and we can help you help them with that. Make sure that they've got a thorough, detailed plan in place before they begin the process of moving forward. So, any other questions? Okay. All right. So, as you saw there on the slide, marketing team is going to be following up with everybody today. They're always available at 800-672-7202 to answer questions about any and all things. All right. But we will be following up specific to this. Expect to be asked about contracting and what your plans are moving forward with that. Expect to be asked about any particular opportunities you think like you've got there in front of you, and how we can help you move that from an opportunity situation into an enrollment situation. So appreciate everybody making their time available today. We always enjoy doing this. As Courtney said, keep your eyes peeled for our new marketing initiative, the 2-Minute Minute. You're going to see emails about this. You're going to see at the bottom of the emails that we send directly to you. There's a link down there for it. If nothing else, give us a call. We can get you the link. A lot of great quick hit information is being put out there, and the idea that is going on here is that we want to make it easier for you to do what your primary job is, which is to help more people. And if we can make more opportunities available for you to help more people, everybody benefits from that. So, all right, we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks, everybody. The gang will be in touch here shortly to follow up. We appreciate you making your time available here, and we're going to go ahead and shut it down. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.